Now that Oliver told you about the beginning of the Cuban Missile Crisis, I'm going to tell you about the second half of this historic event. So Kennedy needed the missiles removed from Cuba, and he had to do so by any means, but he didn't want to do anything too extreme to cause a war. And so instead of removing the missiles with force and invading Cuba, which would have probably caused a war, he decided to use less extreme measures. And according to History.com, he had a two-phase plan to do so. First, he would create a blockade with the Navy to keep anyone from coming in or out, which would decrease the food and the military brigade that they had. Next, he would send an ultimatum, which would state the missiles needed to be removed with no questions asked, and if that didn't happen, then they would probably go to war with Cuba. A big historic event that happened during this time, whenever they were quarantining the island, is some Soviet ships tried to break through this blockade, and they were very close to starting a firefight with the U.S. Navy, but thankfully they veered off at the last second, right before they started shooting at each other, and this probably saved the U.S. from going to war with them, which wouldn't have been good for either countries because they both had nuclear warheads. So finally, on October 26th, a Soviet leader sent President Kennedy a message stating that they would remove all missiles if the U.S. promised not to invade them or to put any troops in Cuba, which was the best thing that Kennedy could have done because it saved us from a war, and no troops were killed, and the missiles were gone out of Cuba, so they weren't a threat to us anymore. Now that I explained all that, Brian's going to explain the fall of the Berlin Wall.